Hey, okay. I've got a big weekend ahead of me. And so I'm like, okay, I've got to get some housekeeping done. So I turned on 70s classic rock. That's my motivational jam. And all of a sudden they put on Bee Gees. And I'm like, Bee Gees? That is as non-motivational as you could get. Next thing you know, I'm sitting down just reminiscing. I'm like, I love the Bee Gees. And I thought, you're not motivating me, Bee Gees. But since I was sitting down, I decided to go ahead and do my part 5 of my story. Okay. So yesterday was the 4th and nothing happened. But it was funny because last night, all I kept thinking was, man, last year I could tell you everything I was feeling. There was a lot of anxiety because I knew I've got to call my regular general practitioner doctor and tell him, hey, haven't talked to you in a few days. I turned purple, went to the hospital, got kicked out of the hospital, celebrated the 4th. What have you been up to? Yeah. So I'm like, I was dreading the end of the holiday because I knew the next morning I had to call the doctor. Well, here we are. So I call, he calls me back and he's like, what in the world is happening? And I'm like, well, I kind of turned purple on the 1st and and he's like, Stacey, I've been looking at your records. This is not good. What in the world? And I go, couldn't you be a little more cheery? Seriously. I'm not, anybody that tells me bad news from this point on, I'm going to hang up on, just so you know. And so he says, look, you need to come in because we need to check you over. I'm like, okay. So I go in. Now, here in the next few weeks, things kind of slowed down. There was a lot of waiting and getting records and stuff. And so I'm going to just kind of pull it all together and condense it. So I'm going to keep going. And so he has me come in, sets up an appointment. I go in. He's like, look at this. This happened. He was measuring me. He was looking at my belly. And he's just like, we've got to get you right now into a surgeon. And I'm like, all right, but I don't think they'll let me back at KU. I think they officially now have me on a banned list. And he said, I'm going to handpick you a doctor. You don't have to worry. I'm going to get you a doctor that will take care of you and that knows me. And he goes, he kept saying, I can't say it. I'm going to handpick this doctor. And I'm like, so what are you going to say? Hey, I've got this middle-aged woman here. She's turned purple. She's the size of an elephant. And hey, she's as quirky as you can get. Seriously, she's a handful. She's a pain in the patookus. She's already got thrown out of one hospital. Would you take her on as a patient? I was a hard sell. But he calls me a couple of days later and he says, I've got you a new doctor. She's at St. Luke's. Her name is Dr. Rowland. Fine. So I make this appointment to see this Dr. Rowland. Now, here was my mentality. When I went to see my regular doctor and when I went to see Dr. Rowland, in my head, I knew when I looked in the mirror, I was gray. My skin was hanging. All of this chubbiness was gone. I didn't even recognize myself. As a matter of fact, I pulled down the visor one day and I looked at my daughter and I go, have my teeth always been this big? My face had gotten so thin that my teeth didn't fit. My teeth looked too big and my nose looked too big. I didn't even recognize myself. And Chelsea said, Mom, Sarah and I were just talking, Sarah's my daughter-in-law. She goes, we were literally just talking about that in the hospital, but we didn't want to say anything and hurt your feelings. But have your teeth always looked like that? And so, yeah. So I don't know why, but apparently I'd lost so much weight, my teeth didn't fit. But here was my theory. I don't want to freak the doctors out. So what do? You just put on more makeup and a fancy, fancy outfit to kind of razzle dazzle them so they don't see physically how bad you look. Seriously, that was my mindset. I didn't want to freak them out because if you freak out a doctor, then what do? They do all kinds of crazy stuff. And so I needed my doctors to stay calm. So apparently, I thought dressing like a drag queen was all I needed. Yeah, seriously. As a matter of fact, I got ready to go see my doctor, one of them, and Chelsea's like, wow, hey there, eyebrows. Seriously, I even drew on like major, I don't know, contouring. I was doing it all because I thought if I look good, they'll think I feel good. And if I feel good, I'm not dying. Yeah. So now I go down to see Dr. Rowland dressed up like I'm about to go, on a Broadway play and sing cabaret or something. I don't know. And she was amazing. She said, look, I've talked to your doctor. And she goes, here's what I want you to know. This is your story. This is your journey. This is your treatment. What I'm going to do in every scenario is I'm going to give you all the options. You will choose whatever option you want. And so she would say, okay, if I find this, do you want this removed? No. She goes, okay, that's fine. All right. Now, if I find this, are we going to do this or this? let's do that. Okay. And she was writing it all down. She goes, now here's what we're going to do. I'm going to now take your blueprint for what you choose. And she says, we're going to go and we're going to do surgery. And I'm taking this list that you just gave me, and I'm going to take it in there with me, and I'm going to do exactly what you asked. Seriously? But the Russian lady told me that I couldn't have an opinion. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't even ask a question. And now here's this beautiful woman saying, this is your story, girl. You write it. Are you kidding me? I fell in love with her. She was amazing. And to proceed on, I'll go ahead and tell you, one of the darkest days was August 13th, right before the surgery. And on that day, I called them and I said, look, I can't go through with this. This is happening too fast. I need a little break. And the phone rings right after that. And it's Dr. Rowland herself. And she goes, what's going on? And I said, I don't know. I just feel like I've fallen out of my faith boat. And she goes, I promise you, I'm not going to let you drown. I'll keep pulling you back in that boat until we get to where we need to go. You just have to trust me. Will you trust me? Yes, I'll trust you, Dr. Rowland. I love her. So that then tells me that story that says God promises to work all things to our good. Lived that one. Seriously, I had a doctor who was going to do unnecessary surgery without any diagnosis, without any kind of reasoning. She just had a blueprint and I had to fit into it. To God moving things all around, setting me on a curb, and then hand-picking me a doctor who said, I'm going to hold your hand through this. You tell me what you want. God works all things to our good. All right. Now I have to go clean house. Okay. Stay tuned for the next part. It's getting good.